Kennedy had never meant to cause an intergalactic incident. She was only 7 years old after all, and the shimmering crystal walls of the draconian royal palace were far too tempting for a child with a stick of charcoal and an imagination that stretched across star systems. The human delegation had arrived on Draconis Prime 3 cycles ago, seeking trade agreements and diplomatic relations with the ancient dragonkin who ruled this sector of the galaxy. Kennedy's father was the chief negotiator, and her mother served as the cultural liaison. Both were currently locked in endless meetings with the Dragon Council, leaving Kennedy to wander the palace corridors with only her guardian bot, Josiah, for company. Josiah wasn't like other AI constructs. He'd been with Kennedy since she was born, his consciousness evolving alongside hers, learning to understand not just her words but her heart. He stood now at 7 feet tall, his synthetic frame designed to appear humanoid but unmistakably artificial, with soft blue lights pulsing gently along his chest panel, a visual heartbeat that Kennedy found comforting. "Stay where I can see you, Kennedy." Josiah's voice hummed with gentle authority as she skipped ahead down another crystalline hallway. The palace was a marvel of bioengineering, its walls grown rather than built, translucent and gleaming with internal light that shifted through colors Kennedy had no names for. "I'm just looking," she called back, her small hand trailing along the smooth surface. The wall felt warm, almost alive. Without thinking, she pulled out the charcoal stick she'd found in the palace gardens, a strange, black mineral that left marks wherever it touched. She began to draw. First simple shapes, circles and squares, the basic geometry that human children had been drawing since the caves of Earth. Then something more complex emerged from her unconscious mind, flowing lines that curved and intersected, symbols that felt right somehow, though she'd never seen them before. They came to her like a half-remembered dream, each mark following the last with an intuitive certainty. Josiah's sensors detected the markings immediately. His processors ran through every database he possessed, cross-referencing billions of linguistic patterns. What he found made his cooling system spike. "Kennedy," he said slowly, carefully, "where did you learn to write like that?" She looked up at him, charcoal dust smudged across her nose. "I'm not writing, silly. I'm just drawing pictures, see? This one looks like a bird and this one's like a flower and—" "Kennedy, stop!" Josiah's voice carried an urgency she'd never heard before. His optical sensors had gone from blue to amber. "Don't draw anymore, please." But it was too late. The palace shuddered. The crystalline walls began to pulse with deep crimson light, spreading outward from Kennedy's markings like blood through veins. Somewhere in the depths of the structure, ancient mechanisms were awakening. Systems that hadn't stirred in 10,000 years. Within moments, they were surrounded. The Dragon Guard materialized from the walls themselves, their massive forms composed of living crystal and scale, eyes burning with inner fire. Leading them was Commander Vorashek, whose reputation for ruthlessness had preceded the human delegation's arrival. His wings spread wide, blocking the entire corridor, each feather a blade of hardened crystal. "Seize them," he growled, his voice like continents grinding together. Josiah immediately positioned himself between Kennedy and the guards, his defensive protocols fully active. The child meant no harm. She doesn't understand. Vorashek's laugh was volcanic. That child has inscribed the 17 seals of awakening upon the heart wall of the palace. She has written in the first tongue, the language of the ancient makers themselves, the very language we dragons spent millennia trying to decipher and could never master. Kennedy clutched Josiah's leg, peering around at the angry dragonkin. "I just drew some pictures," she whispered. More dragons arrived, including the Dragon Council themselves, ancient beings whose scales had seen the birth and death of stars. The eldest, matriarch Shenzara, approached slowly, her golden eyes fixed on the wall where Kennedy's charcoal marks still glowed with inner light. "Impossible," she breathed. "These are not mere drawings, human child. These are the songs of making, the patterns of creation. Our ancestors built this palace using fragments of this language, pieces they discovered over millennia. You have written complete verses, grammatically perfect constructions we have never seen." Kennedy's father burst into the corridor, his face pale. "What's happening?" "Kennedy, your daughter," Vorashek snarled, "has either committed the greatest act of cultural desecration in our history, Or, he paused, his expression shifting from rage to something like awe. She has proven something we never wanted to believe. Matriarch Shenzara settled her massive form onto the floor, bringing her head level with Kennedy's. Child, how do you know this language? I don't know any language, Kennedy said honestly. I just drew what felt pretty. The shapes just made sense together. The dragons exchanged glances, their telepathic network buzzing with silent communication. Finally, Shenzara spoke. For 10,000 years, we have considered ourselves the inheritors of the ancient makers, the beings who seeded this galaxy with consciousness and structure. We believed we were their chosen children because we found their works and preserved them. She gestured to the glowing wall, but we could never write in their tongue. Only read fragments. Only copy what we found? We believed mastery of this language required millennia of evolution, of consciousness refinement, of technological transcendence. Josiah's processors were working overtime, piecing together the implications. But humans evolved on Earth, he said quietly. Isolated, no contact with your ancient makers. Precisely, Shenzara said, which means either this is the cruelest cosmic coincidence ever witnessed or the ancient makers were human, Kennedy's mother finished, her voice barely a whisper. She'd been studying the dragon's historical records for weeks. Or human ancestors, or humans are descended from them. The silence that followed was absolute. Vorashek finally broke it, his voice stripped of its earlier rage. Our entire civilization is built on the belief that we are the pinnacle of evolution, the inheritors of the galaxy's true masters. And now a human child, a baby by our standards, writes their language as naturally as breathing. Kennedy, oblivious to the existential crisis unfolding around her, tugged on Josiah's hand. Am I in trouble? Josiah knelt down, his optical sensors returning to their gentle blue. No, little one. I think you just rewrote galactic history. Matriarch Shenzara rose to her full height. The child will not be punished. Instead, she will be honored. And humanity, she looked at Kennedy's parents, will be recognized not as newcomers seeking our favor, but as equals, perhaps more than equals. As the dragons began the complex task of revising their entire understanding of the universe, Kennedy returned to the wall and added one more mark. A simple smile, drawn in the language of creation itself. The palace sang in response, a harmony that had been waiting 10,000 years to be completed. And in that moment, the dragons understood. Perhaps the ancient makers had never left at all. They had simply been waiting, scattered across the stars, for the right moment to come home.